Why don't corrupt dictators retire? And what is the significance of that for Boris Johnson and the Tory party? My name is Mike Cashman. If you find the ideas interesting, please subscribe to the channel. So, why don't dictators retire after a period of dictatorship? Wouldn't think they necessarily want to go on being a dictator forever. But you don't see a great trend of dictators retiring to their country home and going occasionally to the ex-dictators club and swapping stories. It doesn't tend to happen for actually a very obvious reason. If you have been a dictator, then you have suppressed opposition by force, and you have probably imprisoned, possibly tortured, put to death people who have opposed you. Now, as long as you have ultimate power in the country, you can aim to prevent any retribution. But if you have anything other than absolute power, if anybody else is more powerful than you, then you may end up receiving punishment for what you've done, which is likely to be life imprisonment. Even let's assume that you're replaced by a fully functioning and fair democracy. The fully fair sentence for your part in what you've done is very likely to be life imprisonment. So you can't let go of power. And even supposing that you were tempted to, there's a superb video by C.P. Gray called Rules for Rulers. And one of the things he points out is nobody rules alone. So you have a variety of people assisting you to remain in power, using the same sort of coercion as you are promulgating. And in the event of you losing power, unless one of them becomes the supreme dictator, they're facing the same problem. And so even if you are at some point saying, I think I could give all this up and just go and play a bit more golf, then, your henchpersons, if they spot that there's any danger of a wobble from there, are likely to depose you and take over. So there is no way out except death, typically, for a dictator, or being deposed against their will, which very often happens, possibly by the next dictator. Now then, what does all that mean for the Tory party? Our present government taking us through the Brexit shambles and the COVID shambles. The thing is, obviously, they're in a deeper and deeper hole and digging. So they've sold this oven-ready deal on Brexit to the country, but actually, and they sold the idea of that in only 11 months they could put together a trade and cooperation agreement, and some of their supporters are saying, oh look, we did it, despite the fact that the agreement is not at all beneficial to the UK, doesn't cover services at all, has resulted in loads of UK businesses having to give up exporting to Europe and vice versa. The problems are innumerable, they're not getting any better, and we're still in some of the grace periods. So that situation is going to get worse and worse. COVID, you can see the government seeking to kick the can down the road to push back the public inquiry until spring of 2022. Who knows whether it will go back further. If they wanted to get on with it, they could be appointing chair and panel members now and agreeing terms of reference and so on. But they don't. My suspicion is that they want to push it so far back that the giving of oral evidence by the Prime Minister is something that gets postponed until after the next general election. The point is, in both those areas and many others, they're not improving the situation. They're getting in deeper and deeper into the corruption and deceit along the path that they've marked out. And there's nothing that is going to make this any better for them. There are the swings and roundabouts of the economy, but we're now starting from massive disadvantage. So, what's the way out for the Tories? And people don't necessarily look that far ahead, but I think you can see that there's an unusual degree of fear about being ejected from office, which of course could carry the possibility of being held to account for what they've done. While they're in office, they're safe. Now, it may be that Boris Johnson comes up smelling of roses, or that he thinks he's smelling of roses, that he writes his books and gives his lecture tours, writes newspaper columns, makes loads of money, and can enjoy his retirement. But he can't be sure of that. There are people who know where, as they say, all the bodies are buried. Sorry, that's perhaps an inappropriate term, or maybe it's a very appropriate term. But there are people that know all of the misbehaviour, the corrupt contracting, and everything else, and a public inquiry, sometime or another, will bring all this out. How does Boris Johnson escape the consequences of his actions? Well, perhaps his game plan is to hang on to power forever. So we've already seen attempts to suppress protest, to cripple judicial review, to limit capabilities of voters to vote against him with voter ID, which many people, including Tories, have said is solving a problem that doesn't exist. All governments may be a little bit tactical, but there's an extreme amount of manoeuvring to try to prevent this government being voted out of office. Is that because Johnson has great plans for the future of the country? Or is it because he's afraid of the consequences if he's no longer in office? The American Johnson, Trump, seems to have so far got away scot-free from his criminal misbehaviour, causing a number of deaths. So there's the January the 6th insurrection, never mind what he did while he was president in the previous 4 years. Johnson may get off scot-free as well, but he doesn't know that. What do you think? Please add your comments on the channel in the video comments. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.